We've all had a crush on someone, actually let me start over. We've all had a friend who's had a crush on someone that didn't return the same feelings. But despite this, our friend of ours still maintained their own feelings for this person. I mean, you try to convince them that they should move on, give someone else a chance, don't get hung up on someone who doesn't feel the same way. And yet this friend is under some kind of spell that keeps them obsessed with this person. Now since you're such a good friend, obviously, you want to help your friend out of this before they do something cringy and just down bad. So where else to look for advice than the Roman poet Ovid, who not only wrote The Art of Love, which gives advice for how to love, but also the cures for love to help people escape love. He specifically gives us 8 tips on how to break free of love. Because really, as beautiful a thing as love is, it has also led to a lot of heartbreak and pain. So tip number 1 is all about timing. Ovid says that we should try and escape love before we're in too deep. While time permits and you've still no strong feelings, stop at the start. If you've the least unease, time creates strength. Time makes the young grapes ripen, builds the strong wheat crop from the tiny blade. So let's say you start developing feelings for someone. Obviously, you should still shoot your shot if you haven't yet. But if you do and you get rejected, you should probably give that whole thing up. Don't hope that maybe they'll come around, just accept it and move on. But let's say it's way too late for you or your friend and you're already infatuated. In this case, wait for the feelings to be kind of in a low period before you try and advise your friend. While frenzy's in full flow, give way to frenzy. Impetuosity is hard to face. A mind that won't be touched and can't be tackled will hate advice and expertise rejects. So before you apply any other tips, you might want to make sure your timing is right on. That being said, once your love for this person is experiencing a relatively low period, then you could start on the other tips. Tip number 2 is to get busy at something. Take my advice, shun leisure from the start. Leisure breeds love, and guards the love it's breeding. To finish love, keep busy. Love yields to business. Busy, safe and sound. Now I think business here should be applied broadly. I mean, if you work at a job that you aren't super passionate about, this may not be the best option, because then you'll be daydreaming about them while you mop up dog shit. Instead, I suggest getting into a hobby that you could really get into and grow it. Then, instead of thinking about them, you'll be thinking about your hobby, where it'll go, strategies to get better, and people you want to do it with. But yeah, if you just sit alone at home with your thoughts, your love might find a way in. Tip number 3 is to think negatively about them, and disclaimer, I don't fully agree with this tip. Keep thinking what your wicked girl's been doing. Before your eyes, set every loss you've had. Let all these things embitter your whole being. Brood over them. Seek seeds of hatred here. Now, I see what Ovid's trying to do. He's trying to take the intense positive emotions you feel for someone and change them into intense negative emotions. For me though, intensely loving someone who doesn't love you back is just as bad or not even as bad as intensely hating someone. Instead, I think it's healthier to be in a state of indifference towards this person. But that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Moving back to the tips that I actually agree with though, tip number 4 is to move on to someone else. Find someone else in whom your first fresh pleasure may spend itself. The next one will come slow. Old love's lost, always when the new appears. This is probably the best tip here, and it's probably the reason you've moved on past your old crushes. Someone new comes into your life and they actually reciprocate those feelings, and the whole ordeal actually turns into something. Now I know it's tough because we typically want what we can't have, but really it's a great feeling to feel wanted and desired, and I think that feeling will conquer your own feelings of unrequited desire. Hopefully. So tip number 5 works a little off of tip number 4, and that is to engage in multiple love affairs. I recommend you have a pair of girlfriends, for having more takes a man who's braver. Then each love saps the vigor of the other, and to and fro the fissured feelings waver. Alright, this is another controversial tip, in that it's kinda pushing a more casual love life. A more hookup culture, friends with benefits kinda style. And that is one way to go, but obviously it's a whole nother can of worms. We could go into the pros and cons of pursuing monogamous relationships rather than just playing the field, but I will say that the more casual route is probably going to result in less intense feelings of love, if we can even call it love at all. Next up, for tip 6, you're gonna want to be around people. Shun lonely places, lovers. Lonely places are harmful. In a crowd, you're more secure. You have no need of privacy. In private, obsessions grow. A crowd makes succor sure. Again, this kind of goes back to the tip to stay busy. When you're alone, you think. I mean, to be fair, if you're with someone and they're telling a really boring dream story, you might daydream too. But generally, when you're with people, you're outside of your mind and in the moment with others. So go out more with your friends. Do something stimulating like rock climbing. Now the next tip, number 7, is to obviously stop texting them, but also stop rereading messages. Take care you don't reread your charmer's letters. Rereading letters stirs a heart of stone. Put them all on the flames. You'll hate to do it, and say, "This now shall be my passion's pyre." A lot of things nowadays are done on social media or through texting. I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that you aren't emailing or sending letters to each other. But if your goal is to move on, it's gonna be difficult to do that if you're reminded of them every time you reread your old messages. And just seeing that tempting little space to write a new message might lead to a regrettable down bad moment. So look, instead of burning letters like in Ovid's time, maybe delete the conversation and possibly block the number. And look, I know that's a pretty radical thing to do, but it could be the healthiest option for you if you're really having trouble breaking free of these feelings. And finally, we have tip number 8, which is a pretty weird way to end it, but avoid alcohol. Wine leads the heart to love, unless your senses are sunk and stupefied by too much drink. By wind a fire is fed, by wind extinguished. Light breezes fan the flames, gusts blow them out. So either be blind drunk or stick to water. If you're halfway, you're doomed beyond a doubt. Obviously, I'm not going to advise you that you get blind drunk, although that would be kind of funny. Just avoid the booze. You know what? Get into tea. Tea is amazing, it's full of variety, it has a bunch of health benefits depending on the type. You can have tea parties and it's cheaper than alcohol, so sip on tea instead. So anyways, those are the 8 tips I got from Ovid's Cures for Love. I hope anyone out there dealing with unrequited love finds some value in this video. Not only so they could get over that person, but so they can move on to find someone new. If you enjoyed the video, then like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and with that, I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day.